3, 2, 1, go! Good evening, Eva. How are you?
Good evening, Alberto. Actually, good afternoon to you. Very good. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. Thank you. Okay, so this is ChinaReady webinar number 3. We plan to have 3 webinars because we wanted to explore the attitude of a company, of a business who wanted to go to China. And the first 3 things that comes to my mind is that we need to first find out the opportunity, as we discover in webinar number 1. And then we wanted to understand the mindset of the Chinese people when doing business. And we discussed about it on webinar number 2. And today we are going to plan about the strategy. That means what is the right strategy to enter to enter the Chinese market. Sorry. Anyway, today our special guest will be Josh Gardner. Josh Gardner is a very active man in the field. Is with his agency Kung Fu Data from Hong Kong and China and Shanghai. He managed very large account with their accounts in every marketplace and does a lot of promotion and take care also of the pre-sales and after sales for his customers. So he has a lot of experience in the fields. Josh is not yet connected with us, otherwise he will be on screen with us, but I'm pretty sure that he will show up very soon and then we can talk freely with you about anything. In the meantime, since this is our interactive webinar, we want you, audience, to connect with us. And I'm going to share now the Miraboard link where you can come up with the questions, your thoughts, your doubts, your ideas, and your sometimes even strategies that you like to apply for specific cases. Eva, would you like to give us an overview of what happened in the last two session?
Of course. So to introduce myself first, I am a collaboration designer and I'm promoting virtual collaboration. So through these webinars, we are experimenting with using visual collaboration tools like Miraboard in this instance. There are different tools of this kind. So Miraboard is actually an endless whiteboard that can accompany any kind of learning, presentation, studying, material or collaboration. So we used it in first two webinars, and we asked our participants to come on board and contribute by adding their thoughts, questions, ideas about what is being told. So the way to do that is simply to double click on the post-it notes that we already have prepared on the board. There are here in these groups of questions, thoughts, and ideas. And you can simply double click on these and add your thoughts here. So once you join the board, I will actually gather everyone around the area that we are using today, and you can contribute whatever you would like to contribute. So some of the thoughts from the previous webinars, we had great thoughts and questions. There were not too many activities on the board. It's very new, it's experimental. So we understand people are not that comfortable joining in, but we have already some people joining in. Welcome everybody on the board here. So you can see some of the thoughts, for example, from the first webinar where we talk about China opportunity. There are like, China will surprise us not just in consumer electronics, but in beverages, toys, apps, and other things. There were thoughts like, your firm needs to be a learning organization when you're going to China and when if you want to grab the China opportunity. I'm going to show you now what happened on the webinar number 2, where we talked about mindset. And there were even more activities when we talked about mindset. And we had a guest, Jean Su, who shared with us what China mindset is. So we actually captured here 3 things that he was talking about, which is China, or cultural dichotomy about China, about myth, Chinese myths, and what do you believe that reality in China is, and dilemma. So dilemma of having choice of making progress with Chinese counterpart versus actually working with your ego or confirming your ego and what it wants to do. So we were talking about these 3 things with Jean, and here are some thoughts captured by me and other participants. So today we're gonna have we have some fantastic comments here. Love this experience of yours, Alberto. Alberto shared a very personal story with us last time, and I hope we're gonna have some today.
Let's see what happened. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I've got a few stories in my drawers that I like to take out. Those stories, Eva, sometimes are very personal stories. I mean, that when I leave them, I didn't feel like I want to remember them. But then I realized that they are part of what I am. They are part of my decision-making process, and they are part also of the attitude that I have toward the market, the peoples, and the opportunities that comes in front of me. So there is never a stop in front of what happens or what we do. And yeah, I do have some stories that I could share today. Let's see how it goes on. Good. So, going back to our strategies, what is it a strategy when we talk about China? I am pretty sure that everyone thinks that a strategy of entering China needs to follow the the path of a company and the history of a company that has done in the past with their success. Because most of the time, but I would say 95% of the times, the companies and the brands who wants to enter China are mainly companies that have already a brand awareness very well known in the West. So the situation is that they have had some success stories. They had their path which brought them to become leaders in their field, and they think that since it worked in their own country and it worked in a larger pond of their own mentality and mindset. Let's say an Italian company has had a lot of success in Europe, or a German company was expanding very well in Russia or as well as the United States, and so on. Then they think that they can apply the same strategies to enter the Chinese market. But we all know, or basically I wish that everybody knows, that China is completely different. It's a different place for business. It's a different place to activate whatever you want to do. So today I am planning to give you some insights of some of the experience I had with my customers when we started to think about China as the place to go to do business, or even as China as a place to source products, or eventually start a manufacturing plan for the company, so that they could eventually reduce the cost and reduce and increase the productivity and get on a larger scales market. So these things are very important to be taken into consideration, and we need to be aware every time we want to enter the Chinese market. So let's hypothetically think that we want to enter the Chinese market from a manufacturing point of view. China has been renowned in the world for being the place for products manufacturing, and we all know that in China things are cheaper. Yeah, I say cheaper. I didn't say cheap. And cheaper if you have got enough quantity to justify the production in China. Otherwise, it may turn out that things are not so cheap to handle. The product itself may be cheaper in terms of export price, but it's not really the same thing. So once you get it up to your warehouse back in Europe or back in the United States, and you want to start the distribution. Because the cost of handling the outsourcing process went overhead, and you couldn't control it. And so delay and BOM misleading, bill of material misleading, not enough components, or delay within the delivery of the components, and so on, or misunderstanding between you and the suppliers itself, have accumulated enormous time of work, of stress, of cost that needed to be really managed in a different way. Now, when we talk about the strategy, you need really to do your homework. You really need to sit down and understand exactly what is it that you want to obtain. Because sometimes the best strategy is not to enter the market or not to source product from that specific market. Recently, I was called by an important company, a chemical company here in Europe, that they are having difficulties to source raw materials, so pure chemical items, raw materials from Europe, and they have a lot of delay, and they cannot stand behind the productions and the delivery of their services and products. And they asked me if I could help them source the products out of China. And I said, well, let me check what I can do. And it ended up that the sourcing the products in China for the same quantity that they're buying out of America and Europe, it's approximately 30% higher in cost than sourcing the same products in Europe. And so I say, but this is impossible. And I say, well, it is not impossible. It is as it is. But it's not the answer. So my suggestion to them was, forget about China. China is not the place to source your products. You need to focus on a different supply chain from your original suppliers here in Europe. You need to better understand where you want to lead. And then we put down in place a strategy that could absorb certain delays and compress the lead time so that it could recover the accumulated delay and loss for the previous orders. And this is something very, very typical. So it doesn't really mean that China is the answer to anybody. China is one of the answers. And it is important to understand that the answers need to be understood and read through. Covering our eyes and trying not to listen to the others, or not making enough market research and do your homework before planning anything, it's going to be a problem. And it's going to cost you a lot, because China is not for hard-fainted. You know, China is a place for people who really want to grow and do business seriously, but they are backed up by a strong and important strategy. Now, if we go back instead and want to sell products to China, we also need to understand why people should choose our products compared to others. What is the real advantage about it? I have been talking tons of times to local manufacturers from Italy, artisan manufacturers, people who do pieces of art for every product they do. And they were like, yeah, I'm sure our product is going to work in China because it's made in Italy. Now, for as much as I like things to be made in Italy, I am pretty sure that it will not make a difference to a Chinese company knowing about the origin of the goods, where it is manufactured, unless these goods has an important name, a brand that back it up without having any doubts on it. So I see some comments already. So there is Abdul that says, I'm joining along with you, sirs, from Bangladesh. I'm also leather exporter from Bangladesh. Good. Abdul, tell me, are you exporting to China as well, or are you buying goods from China? I'd like you to give us some hints, and maybe we can work out some ideas starting from you. And then we got Giuseppe that says, Giuseppe is going to say, more farm makes the dress products during the trip by sea to reduce the lead time and the duty. Okay, more factories make the dress products during. Okay, I don't understand exactly what he wanted to say. Maybe Giuseppe, I guess you're Italian. You want to write it in Italian, and I will give it the reason on it. I'm sorry about it, Giuseppe. Okay, so going back to our strategy, thinking about China as a place to land, for instance, for clothes. A lot of companies do clothes and fashions in Europe. And a lot of fashion companies, they are pretty well known here in the European countries, and they have a good market. But that doesn't mean that the same knowledge, the same awareness of a brand is available in China. So where the company need to start first is first questions. Are my products going to be liked the same way in China as people in Europe like them? Because the brand itself doesn't make any sense unless the products are really cool and people like it. And second question is, am I ready to supply massively the Chinese market? Because just assuming that your products are perfect for Chinese people and that you are fairly known and you want to enter the market and you go like, let's do it, okay? Just let's push the brand, let's try to make sales. Will be will we be able to supply the demand? Because one day from another, you can have really thousands and thousands of orders that you have not planned for it before. So is that the case that a success story is a disaster story? Or should we really think about it before? So when we talk about the strategy, we really think that we really need to think that the strategy itself is our core business, and China need to be designed as a standalone core business within your company. We understood that there are difficulties for um, um, Chinese people to understand what we mean, and sometimes there are difficulties for Western people to understand what the Chinese mean. Last time when we talk about the mindset, we also say that China is a no problem country. When I mean a no problem country, it means that whenever there is an issue and people comes to you and they go like, oh yeah, no problem, no problem, no problem. And I have my own philosophy about it. I say that obviously they are right. China is a no problem country because if there is a problem, there must be a solution. But if there is no solution, why should you bother about the problem itself? Just don't think about it and move over with another target, with another mission. Okay, so it's a very difficult thing to understand and to accept. I agree with you guys when you say, yeah, easy to think but difficult to apply. Trust me, I spent 33 years in China, and still today I struggle many times about ignoring a problem and moving on with a project, because if I stop on that problem, I will not move on anything. So I really need to sacrifice something just to go further. This is part of your strategy. When we plan a strategy, we also need to identify several goals, what I call plan A, plan B, plan C, and even plan D, E, F, G, go on and finish all the alphabet for the number of plans. And it's important for you that once you try one, twice, three times, changing the plan, changing the supplier, changing the distributors, changing the pricing, changing the message. Okay, then it comes a time when you need to have an exit strategy. That's the only things that will really save your back. Because if you don't have plan and exit strategy where you can stop everything you're done, you can freeze the situation and say, okay, that's it. We tried. We got it wrong, is not going, let's go back, what we say, put the paddle back in the boat and stop paddling, because that's exactly the last point. Let me see, I've got Catherine. Catherine says, and it's really horrible to have demand but not be able to deliver. Absolutely, Catherine. It's really horrible when you do the right job, you identify the product, you identify all of the situations that need to be clear for you to grow, and you are not able to. But guys, I've got Josh online. Let's see how he's doing. So hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, thank you very much. We're all fine, and we were waiting for you, Josh. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, I'm spot on time, sir. 7.
Absolutely. I mean, you've never been better on time. So, Josh, I'm very excited of having you here, because I know that you have been working with China for so long. You've been over 15 years in China, and you've been running one of the most successful marketing and service company in China. And your headquarters is in Hong Kong, but you work out of Shanghai. Am I right?
Actually, the headquarters is in Beijing.
The
And
headquarters is in
our client services team is in Shanghai, and I'm actually the only one in Hong Kong.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Is there a particular reason, or simply because of connections?
Oh, so we used to be in Shanghai for a long time. And then my two Chinese partners, they're Beijing, right? So they live in Beijing, and my commercial team has always been there. So we have about 70 people on the ground in Beijing and Shanghai. And then I moved to Hong Kong because my kids were at school age, and my wife had decided she wanted a different sort of environment for the kids for schooling, a little bit more air and water and things like that. So we moved out of the big city and moved to another big city, but a little bit different, right? Hong Kong's a little different.
Absolutely.
And she actually grew up there, so she's had a lot of sort of connection to the colony. So we moved there for the last 4 years. But up until COVID, I commute every 2 weeks. So being in Hong Kong constantly is a new thing for me. So I'm usually on the road 2 weeks a month in China, visiting my teams and clients and sort of leading the charge with the platforms as well. So, plus, traveling abroad, as we all know, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I share the same trip with you, basically, because I used to spend most of my time in China, 3 to 4 weeks, and then going back to Europe, where I had my family, and then visiting my clients and bringing back the news back to China, handling everything, and then going back into China again, and so on. But this is a very interesting part of what we do. Josh, I made a short presentation before where I say that we talk about the opportunity that China gives, and our special guest at that time was Michael Norris, but I know you know him very well. And then last time we spoke with Jin Shu, but he has a very interesting stories to tell about the mindset and the mindset conflicts that he had. He's an American-born Chinese, and he went to China to work for an American company, and he basically, is being yellow collided with this white inside, and he had a lot of issues, and he had to overcome all of those issues. And today we talk about the strategies, and the strategies is the most important part of everything. And everybody just think that going to China, and I tell you by direct experience. I have a lot of companies that calls me up and say, "Oh yes, thank you. I like you to do official WeChat account for us, and then we need to find a distributors, or eventually we need to just open directly an account with the Tmall, or basically, or maybe for our product line, we'd like to be on JD.com, okay? And then we want to get, and we have a small budget for these, but I'm pretty sure within 6 months we're gonna make it right." Every time these people comes to me and tells me what I'm supposed to do for them, I always, hold on and stand by and try to understand if there is a will behind their words, because it looks like too easy for them to get to China. What is your experience?
So I think if you're not prepared to commit fully to the project, you should not do it as a direct launch. And there's no such thing as incrementality in China. So if you're looking at China as an incremental revenue stream, forget it. It's just not going to work. That's disrespectful. The Chinese market is extremely loud and crowded. And most of the brands that approach us are simply not competitive. They just don't have anything worth selling, or it's already been replicated, or it could be replicated instantly by factories that can charge half as much and sell direct. So if you look at I think the idea that you can set up a single channel is even silly, right? At this point, to be competitive, you need to have multiple channels, both for commerce and voice of consumer. You need to be engaged in the community at scale to be competitive. And I think if you're not prepared to make that full sort of commitment to the project all around, you're going to find it a very difficult place to scale and to build a viable commercial model. I think what people don't realize is how expensive China is to operate any kind of commercial infrastructure. The average pay on my team, on my commercial team, is somewhere in the range with bonuses of about 50,000 US per year. That's how hard it is to keep top talent in my space. And we're a services provider. Brands pay twice that to keep talent on staff. So you're looking at payroll, obviously for us in the millions, but you're looking at payroll that has to be accounted for. You can't automate a lot of the functions in commercial operations in China. So it's really not a place where you can do a plug and play. There's no such thing. And I think that's when brands come down to the reality check, which is, whoa, do we have the people, the resources, the will, as you say, the commitment level and the knowledge to even make this a go directly? Even if they think they can, it's very unlikely they're going to succeed. I mean, it is super unlikely. I mean, you're looking at like a 1 in 100 chance. You'd be better off rocking up to Macau with you and I and betting it all on black. At least we have 50-50 shot at the craps table. At the end of the day, success rates in China are extremely low if you don't underwrite the project correctly. So there's a few things you need. Beyond will and commitment and resources, you need your IP directly in your control, and you need IP worth selling. And what I mean is you need to have a brand that resonates and is wrapped around products, people, culture, story, and technology that is worth their time. So a lot of our selection process when we're looking at clients, they come in and say they want to do blah, 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 blah. And I look at them and say, oh, nope, you're not ready for this. You don't have that. Can't do this, can't do that. And it's very hard for people to hear the truth. And the truth is that there are over 60 million merchants active on Taobao and Tmall alone, right? A marketplace with 60 million at scale. Most of them are, 20 million are factories. They make stuff. How are you going to compete with that? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Second, if you're not, if there's not enough positive word of mouth momentum flowing through the whole digital ecosystem, sending these positive signals to consumers that they should try you out and this is a good brand, they're not going to transact. So you can come into the platform and spend a fortune on advertising and get nowhere. So you can't just do performance marketing, which is what you might do in the US or Europe, go into Amazon and start buying clicks or Facebook. No one responds to direct response in China, right? You have to get the whole thing right, which is you've got to send the right signals outside of these commercial ecosystems. If you think of JD and Tmall as like the drain holes in a giant digital bathtub that's pretty murky and filled with sharks, if you're looking at getting people to your store in Tmall, JD, or these other platforms, you've got to light the runway, and that's what your performance marketing does, right? That's what your operations does when it, builds up a lot of momentum around positive reviews and gets the AI that runs the recommendation engine to flip results up, right? So that, people can see you, that visibility factor and that reputation factor. But if you haven't actually gotten a plane in the air, then there's nothing we can do, right? You come in, if you don't have brand equity to trade on, there's nothing we can do for you. I mean, it's literally a zero-sum game because you're up against, as I said, 65 million other competitors. And that's just in Taobao. And outside of Taobao, you have all the competition in JD, you have all the competition in Pinduoduo, you have all the competition in other commercial channels that are growing like Douyin and Kuaishou. I mean, everyone can sell, right? In China, we all have the tools. We have the tools of Hollywood studio. We have the tools of the biggest companies on earth. We have all the technology and all the data we need, and it's all given to us for free by the platform to operate.
And every platform, let me add, every platform have their own internal commercial engine. Their e-commerce engine is within the platform, so it doesn't need to go out. You don't need to go to any external link or stuff. So the process of purchasing stuff is very smooth, and so everything needs to be very integrated. And you need to have multiple accounts to get the whole things done and to go.
Yeah, I mean, most of our clients now have gone from having 1 store to 4. So like we have so many stores now under management, and that's all in the last 2 years because the anti-monopoly law changed, and now you want to sell everywhere, and you can kind of break out your consumers into their commercial channel preference. And so now your commercial apparatus is very complicated. You're running activation and you're doing all sorts of content marketing and KOL seeding in 4 channels or 5 channels, and then beyond that, you have to run all the commercial channels. So you've got this, and that's to generate, to have a commercial success, right? To have a client like a lot of the brands we run that aren't calling us every day complaining about sales, right? So you really need this, this apparatus in place. And the question is, how do you get there, right? Is there a way to leapfrog? And there is, but no one likes it. They don't like to hear it because they want to open up a magic store where you push a button, and China's an ATM machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's there's a billion consumers, and none of them care about you. But no matter, we're going to open up our ATM machine, and a billion people are going to come to it, and we're going to give you cash. And
Exactly.
people, that ATM machine, you put your card in China, you don't know when you're going to get it back.
And how much do they want to? How much do they want to invest in the ATM machine?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like the ATM machine gives you money. You takes your card and says, "Hey, you got to put money in." Right? We're not going to give you money in.
Is
money in for a while. And I always tell people it's like boiling water, right? You know, success is not incremental. I have clients who have launched, and the next month they're break even, like 1 out of 20 of them, right? And then I have clients that could take years, and it's a totally unpredictable outcome. But when you look at a commercial team working at a mid-sized brand or a company or a retailer, they live on these ridiculous numbers that their commercial team gives them, right? Like their executive team, like you can, with this certain percentage of spend, generate this much income and da-da-da. And none of these P&Ls are relevant at all in China. So to me, you know, that whole model gets broken the second they launch. And they're like, wow, this is different. Absolutely. And I'm like, yeah, it's a startup. You need to hack your way to the top here. And you almost can't invest enough in leadership in whatever subcategory you're in. You cannot invest enough in China because there's so many people chomping at your feet, like alligators snapping at your ass. So you have to jump, right? And it's a very hard thing for people to do. But that is the price to get into the tournament. You want to play poker with the big boys? You have to throw down an ante. You can't enter the tournament unless you pay. And that is how competitive it is. And I'm not trying to scare people, but I am saying you can't have unrealistic expectations. If you do, then don't try to operate directly. Find a distributor or a partner who's going to do all this stuff and give them the freedom to do it well in China. You know, give them what they need to make a real go of it. Otherwise, you're just going to get nowhere. You're honestly going to lose your money, right? Whatever amount you spend. And you have to stick with China long enough to blow it up. So I had a client who almost quit us forever, right? It was like 2 years. We're now 2 years, 8 months, but 2 years, 9 months. This is September of last year during COVID. All of a sudden their water boiled and now they're up 600%. You know, it just takes time. You know, you got to just keep smacking it. If you have a good brand, you have great products, you have a good history, you have legacy, you have, you know, these kind of things, you can get it going. But how many commercial teams are willing to wait almost 3 years to hit? You know, they don't plan that way. It's like a quarterly review, and it's just very hard to run a business in China that way or start a business really anywhere, right? So they think because they're big outside China, they can come in, open a store, and it's going to win. That's not true, right? It's just that is, you're starting from zero in China. If you're a zero with Chinese consumers, it's a startup. You're starting from zero, and it's unpredictable, and it's hard to succeed, and you need really good support, good resources, capital, good partnerships. You know, you need it all. You can't just have one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your way to say about the water boiling. It's just like when my wife tried to cook spaghetti and she put the water on the fire, and then if you keep looking at the water, it will never boil. But then as soon as you turn around, the water boils and it spills all out. Okay, so that's a good example. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's honestly unpredictable, right? The temperature that water has to get to boil is true, but you don't know what temperature your water was when you started, right? And that's what I tell people, right? Your brand is starting at, you know, it could be a 0, it could be a 1 or a 5. If you're coming to China and you're already activated, within a month, you're going to be excited. Like we took over a brand launched in March this year. They did millions in 618, but they already had traction in the market, right? We already took over from a partner. I have other customers who are just dumb lucky, right? They launch a brand, and I have a German client who's just dumb lucky, right? We took over their store. They hadn't gotten anywhere with consumers, and then COVID hit, and we did this in-house casting, you know, the live stream in-house, and we just, because of the way the product demonstrated, one of our team became really good at pitching. And so within a few months, we had our own daily audience of about 800 to 1,000 consumers watching. This is an in-house live stream. The client doesn't even pay for it, right? It's just, this is the team that runs the store. And she was so good, right? And we brought in special guests that by 618, this is a real 0 to 1 story. by 618, they did 1 million. And they started from nothing like a few months before. So it definitely can happen. And I see it happen a lot. We do a lot of these, but sometimes we fail, right? I mean, we're not 100%. And there's no way to do that. But you can have your hit rate be extremely high, especially if you have the characteristics of this kind of German client, which is a company that's been around 100 years. They have legacy. They have a reputation outside China. They weren't in China, but Chinese consumers believe in German technology. It runs most of the factories in China. Half of the automobile industry in China is German. So they trust it, right? Like even white goods like Siemens or Bosch is just super, or Philips, super popular in China, right? So I think Germany as a country enjoys a reputation that is very favorable with consumers. And this was sort of a performance apparel product that the Chinese consumers could easily look up the history. They can easily resonate with the product and the brand, and they can see that this company is serious and has been around for 100 years and has never changed and is one of the top 5 in the world. And they've now become top 5 in China. And I think that is a great model. So if you're not in China, they don't know you, but you've really got something outside China, you can absolutely replicate inside China. That is one of the most probable success stories that I would say, 80-90% chance of success with those characteristics. Whereas if you're a small potato that no one's heard of in your own country and you're going to come into China and you don't have anything to lean on, reputation, country origin, legacy, exclusivity, commodity, if you don't have any of these things or valuable IP and you haven't really done any sort of engagement with Chinese consumers, you're really going to find it hard to make money. I mean, it is going to take forever. And I don't recommend you do that. I don't. I recommend you activate first and then try to do commerce. So China's like a second mover advantage market for foreigners. Even the commercial platforms like Tmall, JD, and Douyin and other places that have a flagship store model, that whole model is about brand control. You have to be the IP owner to launch the store. Thus, why don't you wait until your IP is worth launching, right? So it's a second mover market. So you don't need to start with commerce. I don't believe in commerce first in China. Even though I run a commercial operation, I don't believe in that because it doesn't work. It's super hard and it just wastes everyone's time and money. And you'd be better off not hiring us as an operator for a period of time and doing this pre-launch activation. Your money will be well spent. And as soon as we see a spark, we see the word of mouth take off a little bit.
Then you move on.
Oh, that once we have a little bit of a spark, we can take you to 1 million RMB a month almost immediately. But until you get to that sort of moment in your brand's life, that water boiling point, I don't really recommend you do that. You're better off just figuring out how to seed the market properly and get your content and brand popular in a certain way and a reputation on the ground before you launch. And there's many ways to do that. You can also do that in a traditional way. There's nothing wrong with having an exclusive distributor, right? Or even a non-exclusive distribution network. It works. You can do retail. Like there's a million ways to activate China. It's not just digital.
Absolutely.
And
there are tons of ways. This reminds me a situation that I had a couple of years ago. I was back in Sydney going on stage with a large crowd where I was going to talk about China and the way to do business strategy in China. And before me, going on stage, there was an important person. Her name is Petra Hoffman, and she used to be the CTO of eBay in America. And because on the backstage you got the screens announcing the speakers and telling us what we're going to talk about. And when she saw China and she looked at my face, I'm not a Chinese. She was like, "Okay, so what's good to talk about China?" And I say, well, there are a lot of things to talk about China. In particular, there are a lot of lessons to learn. And I knew who she was. Obviously, she didn't know me, but I knew who she was. And I knew that eBay failed tremendously several times in China and lost the competition with Jack Ma and Taobao at the beginning because they thought they could just replicate the way they were working and succeeding in America first and Europe then. And they kept the same cost structures also in China, while Jack Ma decided that whatever they do, they copy, but they never charge anybody for any services, and they keep on giving customer service free of charge to every merchant who wanted to use their platform to sell. Okay, so when she came to me and said, okay, but what would you have done, Alberto? And I said, well, Petra, being already famous in America and not knowing exactly the Chinese market, I would have entered with a small software company with a Chinese image. And if things that I was going to implement would have worked, then I would have made it that the big company from America comes in China and buys the small Chinese company because they're doing well. Okay, in this way, you will have never lost your face in China for doing wrong, for being not successful in what you're doing. And you would have given a lot of face to the small Chinese company that was then bought by the American big company. And this would have made things completely different. And I still believe that for large corporations who are not yet having their image consolidate in China, best things to do is to enter China, very low profile, maybe even with their own Chinese named WOFI, local company in China, and try to get more into retails, to understanding customer service for the product and so on. And when it's the right time, then move on and says, here we are a super company coming back from the United States and giving you the best services and everything. What do you think?
So, I mean, I think if you're in any sensitive categories like eBay is, where you're going to run like a technology platform in China, I think going your route is the only way to go, right? Because I think there is a nationalist sort of sentiment in China, and the government is very sensitive to who controls major commercial channels, especially communication channels, where there's engagement with the population at scale. And I think it's very hard as a foreigner to come into the market with any model in those categories. So you do need to localize completely, which would mean being a Chinese company if you want to have any sort of hope of getting the support of the key, let's call them the key people that would allow you to grow something. And I have friends who have launched successful radio stations and other things in China that are foreigners over the years. And again, it follows your model. They are extremely local. You can't even tell that they're not a Chinese company. And I think that's something to be, a small entrepreneur will come to China and I think in a very short period of time realize that it's better to be local, right? Local people, right? Than to try to come in with sort of a foreign option. I think it's different in retail, right? Because the platform is Chinese, right? So the channel is controlled by China, and therefore the foreigners can be a part of it. And I had a really good friend once tell me, China is owned by Chinese. I mean, the Chinese market, it's China, right? As a foreigner, you're a guest here, and you're never going to become more than that, right? You can own a part, but you can never have the whole pie. There's always something for you in the market. There will be sanctioned things for you to do. But in the end, you're never going to control serious infrastructure. And if you do, you'll be bought out, traded out, squeezed out at some point. I have two friends. One was a mentor who was squeezed out. They were the only licensed foreign pharmaceutical distribution company in China. It was a Swiss firm that was bought by an American firm, and they exited beautifully. But, the Chinese government came in, and when they were selling the unit in China, I remember the CEO was my mentor. And this is a $5 billion US business in China, which is not insignificant. They were one of the biggest players. I mean, the Chinese government went in and told Shanghai Pharma and the other pharmas to outbid every foreign buyer for the company. Like literally, the management team came in with an offer, and the Chinese offer that was government funded was like 4 times. So there was no chance that that infrastructure wasn't going back into China's hands. And you see that across many sectors. So sensitive areas, you need to be local. You cannot have a foreign face or you will be bought out or traded out. But I have another friend who just exited beautifully after 25 years. He became the largest flower grower in China, about 1/3 of all flowers in all those markets. You think about this as a lesson, a Dutch guy, super smart, low profile, very Chinese company, right? Grows everything in Yunnan. He's like farmer, right? And he built this business over 20 years, very no one really knew it was Dutch tech and it's Dutch, Dutch farming, but it was very local. There was no importing. It was all done in China. And he was able to build a substantial business and also exit, but as a local player. And I think that's interesting, right?
That's very interesting. I tried to be Chinese in China. I built on my own manufacturing plant, and it costed me a lot because I made several mistakes during that period. And it wasn't long ago. I mean, it was 10 years ago, basically, when I started the company. I invested quite some money, but I thought I could be somehow smarter, somehow faster, somehow better, but I was never somehow Chinese. And even thought, I think like them, I speak like them, and I have a lot of things that takes me back to China in my 33-year experience. I made a huge mistake in the time and the way I was doing business there. Anyway,
but that's normal for everyone. They come in and they realize that. So
yeah, you tell my pocket how normal it is. Okay.
I think you have to go into an area where you think, you have your best shot at the prize, right? Where you think
absolutely
you have that advantage. If you can play the gap, there is a lot of places where foreigners are sanctioned and encouraged to come into the market and lots of runway, right? And then it's up to you to screw it up. I think if you're trying to compete with Chinese factories, that's tough.
But you know where I fault. I mean, my problem was that I was cherishing so much my employees and giving them pretty much whatever they asked for. Okay, but there was my competitor, my Chinese competitor, the same company I used to let them do my products before as OEM manufacturers, but was calling my employees for job offers, offering them more money, and going up and on and off several times for discussing about the products. But he actually was taking all of the technical information on me. So my competitor was faster than me, and he basically anticipated everything and screwed me up. But anyway, that's another story. I've got a question that I think it's on the mirror board that says, do you believe in general it's better for a company to approach China market alone or establish a partnership or a joint venture? If you think the latter is better, what should a company be worried of? Thank you.
Okay, I can take a stab at this. What do you consider? Well, I mean, my first question is, what do you consider a partnership, right? There's different levels of partnership. Your distributor can be your partner. Your services provider can be your partner, right? In my world, we have two kinds of contracts. One is, we're taking sort of control of inventory and running the whole show, soup to nuts. And others, we're the services provider and the brand team is more directly involved. So I think in that case, I would not recommend JVs. I've never actually heard of a single JV working out in any sector ever on a long-term basis. So I think that's a solution you can just wipe off. You're better off either going pure play, you find an in-market partner, you sell the rights, or you have an exclusive licensing arrangement, and just make sure you centralize inventory and price control as the brand. You own the IP, you centralize inventory and price control, and I think then you can set up fairly viable partnerships. A lot of it is, and I would highly recommend you spend a lot of time interviewing partners, like really doing it right. I mean, I don't know people who do real channel checks. My friend's cousin knows a guy who might be a good partner. I mean, people sign contracts literally on less in my field, and I'm always shocked. So what I tell people is, the window dressing is just that, right? Make sure you go look in the warehouse, right? The eye candy that you get thrown at whatever partner in China, ignore all of that and go talk to the team who's actually going to be dealing with and running your business for you in China. I think that's how you learn whether you're going to have the right partner. Make sure you go through trusted channels that can verify that that person or that group of people can do the work properly, and maybe even double check a few times. And then on commercial terms, I think you can lower your risk and take on more responsibility, or you can have more risk but have zero responsibility, right? And by risk, I mean you're giving control of your future to someone in China, to some group in China. But I've seen every one of these scenarios work out. Every one of them is viable. The one that I haven't seen work out is a JV. that just sucks for everyone. It just is
Absolutely.
the cultural clash is just, you can never reconcile. My close friends in Shanghai who are big executives at Volkswagen, this is arguably the biggest and most successful JV. They absolutely hate each other, right? It's been going on for like 35 years. It's not really a healthy JV. Right?
Well, I can tell you,
You know what I mean? It's not a good, it's a toxic environment for everyone to work. And they do it because it's arguably the most successful one. And it's kind of like the government gives so much support to it because it worked out. But the reality is no one's ever happy in these JVs, ever.
Yeah. But
ever.
let me tell you what happened to me with one of my most important JV I had. I was with a Taiwanese partner. We basically joint venture on a factory for keyboards and mice in Shenzhen, and we started to manufacture these products. You know, I was given the design, they were given the technology. I was given the marketing and the commercial support. They were doing the logistics and the manufacturing. So basically, it was something that really backed up each other, and we had a fight. We had a fight. We had a fight over a very futile questions. You know, the fight was about expenses, because I was traveling on and off Europe talking to customers. Let me tell you, my customers were Logitech, HP, Microsoft, you know, this kind of customers. I was talking to them directly, and I'm talking about late 90s, early 2000s, okay? And the discussion we had were basically the credit card expenses. You know, and I say, Guy, I mean, if you don't trust me on that, how could I possibly go on further? And with these things, you know, putting on a face-to-face fake relationship, we screwed up the joint venture. We split. And you know, so there is a very big problem with joint ventures, even for the most futile problems, you know, the most nonsense. And that's all about mentality and mindset. You know, I should have been more careful in telling him, you don't trust me, okay, or attack him in front of his employees about these issues, you know, or stuff like that. But it's always going. Any joint venture is always going down the road in a very bad.
All joint ventures are combative, and it's always a territory fight. Right? It's like the lions are going to fight over who runs the pack. And it's never not going to be the case. Like I said, of all my years, more than 20 years living in and out of China, I've never seen one work out. And even the most successful one, I'm on a tennis league in Shanghai. My friends who are top executives at Volkswagen in that joint venture bitch about it all the time, right? It's like none of them are happy. Right? That is their relationship with the Chinese government, and they just deal with it, and it's not good, right? It's not a healthy partnership, and you know, there's a lot of toxic waste running around in the hallways.
So I think that with this we answered to Egypt. Egypt says Josh is telling story but not giving any hints on how I achieve that success stories. How about some insight, Mr. Josh? Well, actually, this is a very old. It was already quite 30 minutes ago, this message, and we didn't see it. But basically, what Josh is telling us is that he had to put up a lot of effort with his team to give support, and it's a Chinese team, to give support to the customers. I mean, customer relationship and customer support is the most important things and when I talk about customers, I mean the consumers in China is the best things to approach and to support in a commercial environment, because the consumers are the one that decides if you will survive or if you will die. I mean, there are going to be a lot of other problems. I know stories where new brands that launch new products, or they launch their brand themselves into the market in a specific period of time, like it could be the Double 11 or 618, you know, the specific dates with the e-commerce festivals. They have got jeopardized by fake orders and tons of returns or stuff like that. And I know you have experience about it, don't you, Josh?
Oh, every day. So let's start with this concept of combative sort of commerce, right? you're going to deal with industrial sabotage no matter what you launch in China. There's never going to be a case. And that's why brand strength is the key feature of success in China. You can forgive a lot of things, but brand strength always wins. Great example. Xinjiang comes up. All the cotton. We're going to remove Nike from China. Adidas is dead. H&M is gone. A couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
Chinese brands are going to win. Then you go to 618. Number one, Nike. Number two, Adidas. Number one, Adidas. Number two, Nike. Brand strength is your salvation when you come into China. And so my advice to anyone coming in, or what insights, is to spend 99% of your resources winning the hearts and minds of consumers. Because what Alberto mentioned is going to happen no matter what. You're going to launch a store. I'll give you a great example. I have one right now, a big distributor they're the largest customer of my client. It's an Italian brand, and they're the largest customer in the world. And they were pissed off that they didn't win the pitch for online. It was won by another distributor, a competitor of theirs, who already has offline of another brand owned by this group. And so this guy is very clever, right? They kept him for offline. What he did was he sub-authorized a bunch of people to open up stores, then bought commerce at scale. So likes, transaction volume. I mean, he put in millions of RMB in the first week to make his store look great. Then he created an identification tag system and advertised and did PR around it, that anytime you buy this product, if it doesn't have my tag, it's not real. Now, the brand itself doesn't use these tags. So this guy is very clever. His campaign is, he is so far ahead of the brand in terms of movement. Now, we're assigned commerce. What do? I mean, you're up against this, and the approach has to be full contact rugby, right? You're on the field, and I know this
You're gonna fight,
general, but you're going to fight, and we fight every way we can. We were able to use our relationships. So we're a multi-star Tmall partner, able to use our relationships with Tmall to box him out of the set. And what I mean by that is you come in and you just block him, right? So he comes in, tries to do this, take him down. And then in JDD, we did a similar thing, but he got to keep his store, but instead we got his traffic suppressed, right? And then discredited him. And then, to keep up with all the fake orders coming in, because he's trying to dislodge our reputation, we have our own engine making sure to repair reputation on a minute-by-minute basis. So, you have to have a proper defense and offensive position, and that's going to happen. And consumers are very unforgiving, and they have incredibly unrealistic, but for China, very realistic expectations. So, they demand instantaneous everything. It has to be perfect. It has to be done in 30 seconds or less. So my whole commercial team is based on this level of responsiveness, which is why it's so expensive to run a store. You got to have full-time live stream. You got to have live commerce, full-time, all the time, plus full-time, all the time, hand-holding and customer service and assisted shopping. And so we train our customer service team to be excellent at selling. So they're all actually professional salespeople, and they're very good at what they do. And they're very good at preserving the reputation of the store and building credibility. Now, my direct answer to the person who had that question is very simple. We publish an insane amount of advice for free, okay? We can only serve so many brands, right? We are a boutique in some ways, right? We have, 27, 28 stores, right? So we can only handle so much business. So we actually give away most of the tips and stuff, insights for free. So I would highly recommend you sign up for our newsletter on kungfudata.com and then go to the insights section. We publish 350 times a year. One of the things I would pick up if you want a playbook is Brand Your Way into China. If you just search that in Google, you probably find it, or on our website. It is a mini book that we've given away many times. In that is the playbook that you need right now to actually go and start your seeding campaign. And with the case studies showing exactly what my clients did. It has a list. It actually gives you the things you need to do. And it tells you exactly what to do. So I would get that book. And I think that's the first place I would start. If I was you, if you have no knowledge of China, no reputation in China, start there. Reputation with consumers, resonance with consumers. That's your number one priority. And then don't be cheap. Send as many samples and as much support as you need, and activate your brand, and don't expect commerce for a while, and just wait for your water to boil. That's it. Very simple.
I have got another question for you. Okay. So first, there is Ariane. It says, if the times allow you to do so, could you please talk a bit more about your past mistakes? Oh, it was referred to me, Albert. Okay. Yes, Ariane, I would love to tell you about my mistakes. There is not enough time to tell them all, but yeah, we will try to do so. I already told you a couple which are very important to understand. Anyway, and then there is this other LinkedIn user that says, by listening to your insight, Josh, it looks like as the only way to enter China is to invest on an idea, but let the Chinese handle it and never directly expose as a foreigner. Oh,
no, that's not.
No, it's not exactly this. No. We are not saying that it's impossible. I mean, China is a possible country. Nothing is impossible in China. Actually, everything is possible in China. But you need to be aware of certain circumstances and situations. You need to understand who you're talking to. You need to have a clear vision of where you want to go and how you want to reach that goals. And then you need to have enough financial support to do so, because Chinese are undoubtedly smarter, faster, and richer than we are. Because if they have a vision, then they will find the support to reach that goal.
I would say, you know, I wouldn't look at it that way at all. First of all, there's no only way to enter China. As mentioned, all the ways work if you run them right, right? So running China right means being on the ground or having boots on the ground in China that you trust. Just like any other country, but even more so in China, right? It doesn't have to be Chinese, right? Like, for example, my commercial team is Chinese, obviously, but we have over 70 staff on the ground. Most of them are trilingual, bilingual, lived abroad for years, or are foreigners who lived in China forever, like me, right? So you can get help that's bilingual, and there's quite a bit of it. And you wouldn't have any issue. Like if you go to Shanghai, everyone speaks English, right? I mean, this is a pretty sophisticated population. So I wouldn't worry about that. And then as far as ideas, I want to capture that moment. You're not going to have an idea that someone in China didn't already think about. That is, I would be shocked if you have something original at this point. So to me, and even if you do, it'll be replicated instantly. So what I would say with foreigners with their own ideas, forget all that. The most important thing is whether you have an unfair advantage and a defendable position. That's it. It doesn't matter how good the idea is. It matters whether it's defendable against competition, which is going to be there, and whether you have an unfair advantage. For example, let's say you have a technology that cannot easily be replicated because it's based in a commodity that can only be manufactured in, let's say, Italy, right? You can only get the material in Italy. That's where you want to go into China, right? Because no matter how much you screw it up, you still have
the only way to source a product.
Yeah, like Chinese buyers go to Italy to try to buy the material. I'm sorry, we don't talk to Chinese buyers, right? Like you have to have some kind of unfair advantage. Even if you go talk to China Accelerator and try to join China Accelerator, I know all the guys over there, they will tell you this day one as a foreigner, you must have an unfair advantage or we will not invest. Your idea is only as good as your unfair advantage and whether we think you can defend it. Right? So if it's not defendable and it's not unfair, don't come to China with technology or an idea like this. I think you're going to struggle quite a bit because you're not going to have something that can't already be copied. And like Alberto mentioned, unless you're prepared to do it at China speed, do not come. Okay. I'll give you an example. Like Chinese I'm sure you guys have read about like things like Luckin Coffee, right? They're just insane, right? They threw in like $1 billion to launch coffee shops. Like they do scale like nothing else, right? They take huge risks. They put big money on the line and all the resources and relationships. They are always all in all the time. It's like playing poker with someone and they never fold. We're all in. Next hand. All in. Yeah. You know what? I see your $100 and I raise you 50 million. Like they will try to build the ante to a point where you are scared to come in. And that's what I see in these commercial platforms. a lot of brands coming to us now are like, how do we do this? That's what it's going to cost to get into beauty or this. I'm like, yeah, because there's 10,000 other people like you coming in right now. And the Chinese versions of Guochao, they're willing to spend anything to win market share, to have that leadership position. So let's say you're someone with great ideas, you'll be very welcome in China, but I wouldn't tell anyone until you're sure you own it, right?
Yeah,
you have an
absolutely.
unfair advantage around it. You wrap it up in a brand that, a reputation or something that is defendable and durable and something you can come in and scale. And clients with established sort of branding or social credentials do very well. So let's say your idea can be wrapped in social credentials that are unquestionable. Like, let's say it's celebrity endorsement or whatever it is. If you have that, it doesn't actually matter if they're local competitors because they know they can't beat you. They'll do other things. They'll win other parts of the market, but
Absolutely.
You can win and you have a big runway and you can grow. And a lot of my clients, they're doing 5, 10, 20 million US online in China. So there is I have a lot of clients that are extremely successful. That German client that launched from zero last year did millions this month, 618, they're up hundreds of percents, right? It's like 300, 100, like they're doing great. You just need something that you can defend in the market and control, right? If you don't have those things, unfair advantage, defendable position, the right IP or resonance with consumers, it's going to be hard for you to win. Or commodity. You control the commodity, wrap an idea around a commodity, you won. Instantly you win. Instantly you win, right? So I think that's something that you as someone who's promising, wants to come in the market, wants to do a test, think like the guys who joined China Accelerator. In fact, I would encourage you, if you have ideas, to approach the tech startup community in Shanghai. And
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I've been mentoring startup communities for years. It's crazy.
There are 85,000 startups in Shanghai.
Yeah, I know.
It's like the new valley, right? It's like the new Silicon Valley. Come to Shanghai, kick the tires, go in and make your pitch, see if you can get funded, right? I think one of the biggest, endorsements, right, is to get a major sort of accelerator or venture group in China to back you, because that tells me that they know you have something, right? And they may say no 100 times, but if they come in and put money into it or let you into the accelerator, it means they think you've got something, which means you have something that could become an unfair advantage or that they can defend for you by making some phone calls, right?
Absolutely. I extremely recommend to go and just leave a day in one of those startup salad, how they call it, where you get mentors to choose every pitch. Okay, so we got one comment from Catherine that says the Chinese consumer is really spoiled compared to what Western companies are used to. Absolutely, yes. I
mean, you don't even know what the spoil is.
Like. It's unimaginable. It's so difficult to explain.
You can't. I mean, if you're in Shanghai and you order something, I mean, if you're starting your order, you get help. They do everything. They'll even try it on. I have 2 years ago, I had no live stream studios. I now have in our building in Beijing, I have an entire floor just for live stream, a whole floor of a building to do studio live streams. We have a lot of performance apparel brands and fashion brands. And I literally, for consumers now, my team the customer service team is doing live try-ons to show how it fits on the body before they click buy now. And then after they click buy now, you've got the normal gifting, the hand holding, the tracking. I mean, the stuff is delivered within an hour, right? If it's near our warehouse, 2 hours. I mean, it is, you can't even imagine. Like, my wife ordered a TV on JD.com a few years ago. We're in our Shanghai flat and it's Saturday morning. No one's going to come visit, right? I'm drinking my coffee, whatever. On the door. There's a crew with a TV there. I'm like, I didn't order a TV, right? I'm like, who the hell are you guys? And then the guy's screaming at me like, no, just need the right? I'm like, no, it's not, right? It's not, right? He's like, 你的老婆是不是电了? I was like, all right, let me ask her. So I screamed back and said, Kate, did you order a TV? She's like, I just did. Literally, they come in the apartment, install the TV, hook up the cable, hook up the modem, get Netflix streaming through my VPN, my favorite TV show, 2 hours from the time she could buy now. Oh, and by the way, free. All these,
obviously.
And the most
service is free.
professional installation crew ever.
Okay.
They had like 5 guys come in. They had my house wired in like 20 minutes. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'm like, what the hell? You need like 5 cable people to come out over a 6-week period to get this set up in the US. Be a pain in the butt. These guys come in and do it for free.
Yeah,
for free in an hour.
It happened to me once. My wife wanted to buy some flowers, big plants, actually, to bring in our garden in Shenzhen. Well, I was living in Chicago at that time, and the thing is this, that when we bought those plants, the plants were beautiful, but we bought them more likely because of a vase. That this beautiful ceramic decorated vase and Chinese decorated vases, and we really like the vases actually. So we just choose the plant by the vase. What happened is that a few days later, the guy who sold the plant to us came to visit us again. You know, he delivered the plant to us and everything. So he knew exactly where we were living and what environment we had where we put the plant. Very heavy stuff. And we asked him, why does he come over? I mean, what's the point of coming and visiting us? We're okay with the plant. He says, no. I'm here to water your plant because I know you like the vase. Okay, so I'm afraid that you are not going to water the plant. So he was taking care of the plants for us. That's, the after sales service. And in we were going to buy more because, I mean, eventually it would have come to just take care of them. That's a service, how far you can go.
Yeah, and they're insane. Like you don't even realize that you can actually, like, most of Taobao and Tmall is what I call M2C. It's manufacturer to consumer direct. So there's like 20 million factories or makers have their own direct retail stores. They're like, for home decor, we have stuff like, my wife will take like streaming measurements of what she wants, like curtain rods and stuff. They customize it for you and deliver that day, right? Like, why would you ever go to like Pottery Barn or like a retailer when you can have the factory make the stuff for you? And by the way, you have a 7-day guaranteed right of return.
Yeah, so I had a brilliant idea to celebrate the birthday of my kids, and I wanted to give them a present as a T-shirt with the logo on it, so that they would remember the date. And I thought I was late with the orders, and I placed the order on Taobao, and I got it in the morning. I got it in the afternoon, just before the birthday party started. So it's very fast. It's all great. It works very fast, and it was customized T-shirt. Anyway, we could go on for hours, Josh. I mean, you and I know that. Just like opening a Pandora vase, it's incredible. But I want to invite Eva to join us for a second. You know, Eva is facilitating the whole thing, and she's sharing with us the Miro boards, where she got all of the comments and thoughts and ideas from the people who listen to us. Eva, go on. Tell us a bit more.
Hi. So there is not much going on Miro board. I think this was such an engaging conversation, Josh and Alberto, that people didn't have time actually to write. You know, all the input is already in comments there. What I did on Miro board is basically capturing all of your thoughts in a mind map and capturing some of the Q&A and answers in bullet points so people can refer to it later on.
Okay. Perfect. And so basically, you pictured what we were talking about.
Yeah, I tried to.
So, and this is going to be available I was also derailed. Check later, right?
I tried as best as I can, but because the conversation was so engaging, so I also had to stop a couple of times and say, okay, right. Now this thought down, right?
Well, I told you that Josh is a very interesting person anyway. Okay, so let's go back together. The strategy behind entering China, because this is the key questions, okay? Strategy means a lot and need to be done really well. I mean, the homework that we need to do, the understanding of the market, the consumer persona that we need to identify, it must be perfectly crafted. It cannot just be, let's try and see what happens, okay? It has to be identified by the second. And this is so important, because otherwise it would just be a waste of money. Am I correct, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, and I would only add to that once you've identified it, seed it and test it to make sure you're right before you commit.
Absolutely.
Because if you've got it wrong, you have a chance to fix it then, but you don't have a chance to fix it when you're a commercial operator. At that point, you're so in deep, it's just painful, and you just lose. So I highly recommend you do the product seeding and testing once you've identified that consumer. So if you have a consumer avatar that you feel is the right one, like sound obsessed millennial, whatever the hell it is for audio, you know, could be anything. Whatever that profile is, however specific it is, seed it and test it. It's cheap. It goes viral quickly. It's fast. You're going to know with 100% clarity whether you've got something or not. And that's the part that I think most people don't do. Right? They don't actually go to that part. They don't.
No, they don't.
They're cheap and stupid. Honestly, like if I was going to come into China, they'll come in and spend millions of RMB to come into China, put inventory in the country. They'll do all this stuff. Commercial team, hire a partner. They don't do any seeding. They don't test. No one tests. I'm like, that's crazy. Like I would do months of testing just to make sure I had something for real before I came in. Like seriously, I'd have to see some virality around the seeding and be like, all right, this is going to work. They like it. It's great feedback. Here's what we need to change, blah, 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 blah. I would do that for at least 6 months before I launched. Minimum seeding and scaling activation work. That's how I would, in my own shoes, if I was doing my own brand, that's how I would do it.
Thank you so much.
So is getting into accelerator in China part of the seeding, Josh?
No, that's a separate issue. I mean, I don't know who I'm talking to on the line here, right? I work with retailers and brands, right? Or brands for retail, right? Consumer retail. So that's my client. But what I'm telling you is universal, right? So if you go to China Accelerator and you have a technology play or something, if you want to get the funding, you have to have what I told you. They will look at you as a foreigner and say, you're not going to be able to compete or keep up unless you have an unfair advantage, right? So that's your fallback position. So the testing and seeding that I'm talking about is with consumers directly. And you do that in the social digital ecosystem. You know, it's a very big place. You can do it anywhere. You can do it on Douyin. You can do it on, you know, it doesn't matter where you go. Honestly, you just have to get out there and connect and engage the community that is going to support your growth as a brand or as a company or as a product or as a platform. And if that community response is not strong, you don't come in. It's just you're not ready. That's
absolutely.
Right.
I would add,
you got a strategy. Oh, that's good.
Yes.
If you don't have the response, you wait.
Josh, I would add that the testing and seeding need to be done not only from consumer products, but also for business products.
Absolutely.
Many times I find B2B companies, you know, they do machineries, they do products for other businesses, and they think that there is no way to test their products unless you know, just compete with the technical data and specification and the price. And I say, no way. I mean, the things and the message you have to create need to be consumer proof. That means that the consumers, you know, if he wants to buy something, need to know that is good just because you are behind the real product brands. Okay, so you're manufacturing what it takes for the brands to be good. Okay, I did this for a machinery company that does a molding machines for car doors. Okay, and I said, you know, this molding machines are very complicated and very costly and very big. So we only have a few companies that buy it. And I said, okay, but can you tell me some of the names of these companies? They go like, well, Volvo is buying our machines. I said, okay, Volvo is known for being the best and most secure machine on a crash test. Okay, that means that your molding machines are building the safety of the consumers, of the drivers. So that's a message you need to test. Okay, if
Yeah.
people would buy a machine just because they know they're more secure in case of an accident, okay, then you got your response, you got your feedback, and that's how you get it. Doesn't matter what the implementing company does, okay, but what you have to do, you have to check out from the consumers how they feel about it. Anyway,
At the
Josh.
end of the day, though, I think at the end of the day, what you're saying is very simple. You got to have good credentials to be here.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have a hell of a set of credentials, right?
Yeah.
So that molding, look, that's an amazing proof element, right? If your client is Volvo's supplier for the crash doors, you can get an appointment with any Chinese automaker, like instantly, right?
Yes.
Because they all, first of all, Volvo's owned by a Chinese company, Geely.
Yes, it is.
And
Now.
second, they all want to replicate what Volvo's done in terms of safety. It's a government prime directive that Chinese automobiles be as good as Japanese or American or other countries. So you will get lots of support if you can offer that to Chinese automakers. I have a friend who he runs a design studio. He does auto design in China. It's the same thing. And Chinese companies will use him because he's got the best engineers on the ground and they do an awesome job and they have the best studio. Right. And Chinese buyers have government funding. They don't care what the price is. What they care is that they meet targets set by the government. Right. And one of those is quality and safety. And so if you sell into this and your client is Volvo and you can prove that, you're going to get an appointment with every single Chinese automaker. They're going to stop you.
Follow.
Yeah, but
to have a testing, I mean, to have a feedback from the market, to understand how the message could go, that's how I recommend it. And it worked well. It worked well. Anyway, Josh, I'm not going to steal any more of your time. It was wonderful having you here. With Eva now, we're going to go through our board. You want to stay with us, you're the most welcome. And if you want to leave, it's going to be perfect, okay? I owe you, Josh, okay?
Come on.
I know you said it's a no-brainer, but sincerely, I really owe you for this, okay?
Well, I wish you guys good luck with it. I mean, it's a super...
It's a new experiment we're doing, I realize that every time and every day, I repeat a lot the same concept to different customers and different potential customers. And I said, okay, why don't I do it on video that can stay there? But I don't want to be the only one to say it, okay? And Eva said, yeah, that's a great idea. I can support you facilitating the events and writing down all the insights, the comments, and the reply to the comments and the ideas and the thoughts that come out of everything, okay? And so I try to invite a few key people to share with me their own experience. And this experiment will be available to everyone on YouTube, on the channels that we use to go streaming. And I will use it again and again to just promote and confirm that China is a place for everyone, but you need to do your own work and you need to really know what you're doing. For these, with Eva, we're also planning to have a masterclass. So far, every masterclass I've done and all my teaching has been on site. But I think it's a right time, and also because of a facilitating effort that Eva can give me, to have an online masterclass, maybe with people from all around the world, and make, a brainstorming of good figures to come out with strategy and business plans in hands for everyone to move on. And I will then give all my possible suggestions to contact with the people I like and the people I've been talking to in these days. Okay, so excellent. Thank you. What do you want to do? You want to stay with us, or you prefer to?
I'm going to head off.
Okay.
I have some other calls and stuff, but I really appreciate you guys having me on the show, and I think it's a great effort what you're doing to help foreigners or I should say, just non-Chinese that are approaching the market, and I'm happy to support. And if if you guys want to reach out to me, the best way to access all of our content is literally just follow me on LinkedIn. I told you we publish about 350 times a year.
LinkedIn. I will publish it.
Yeah, and if you want more detailed stuff, we send a newsletter. It's about once a week, so it's not as much, but it's usually a more detailed thing.
Full of content. It's full of content.
Yeah, and I would also take a look at on our site. You just go to the insight section. It's usually well updated, and it's got all of our stuff. It's searchable, and you can access it easily, and it's all free. Just It's to try to do the right things when you come into the space. So
Absolutely.
that's it.
Thank you very much, Josh. Take care.
Hey guys, good luck.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Josh.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, how long was it? I mean, it's about an hour, no more than an hour, but we're going to close. Eva,
Yeah.
what do you think? You think we should continue with this interesting talks with people? Or you think we should have a webinar 4, 5, 6, or should we change it into ChinaReady talks? And I keep inviting my fellow partners and friends living in China and having a business in China, and asking them to tell us their success story and also their failure stories. I mean, I was impressed by the demand from what was her name? I forgot. There was this lady, Ariana. Okay, Ariana goes like, could you talk a bit more about your past mistakes, Alberto? Yes, Ariana, I will talk a bit more about my past mistakes. If you like to, and if it can help you with, absolutely, it will be my pleasure. And let me check. Okay, we got Bart to say we have a patent invention from a machine to make nice carpet tiles, much innovative and China patent. Can we get our machine made in China? Well, Bart, everything can be made in China, and definitely your machine can be made in China. And one thing I'd like to suggest, I understand that you already have your patent in China. I'd like to go a little bit further with you and to investigate if it is only patent the technology to do the machine, or if you patent also some other stuff, like the design, like the technology itself, because sometimes it's not much about the machinery, but it's the way to do things that makes a difference. So there must be some trade secret that you keep for yourself, and there must be some patent and IP protection that you need to do it. But Bart, yes, my LinkedIn, you can find me, Alberto Antinucci on LinkedIn. Contact me privately and I'll get back to you. We can talk about this. And then we have got another message here from Egypt. Thanks, Mr. Josh. I checked your website. Well done. Looks professional. Next time, we would like to hear a case story from you if possible. Definitely, Egypt. There will be a next time. Thank you very much. Now, as I said before, we were thinking about having a masterclass. What do you say, Eva? Should we make it a reality in no time, or should we plan it on a long shot?
So I think we should seed it a little bit more, and I like your idea about China Talks and having more people come over here and talk about their case studies, mistakes, learnings, and clients. So what we are actually doing with this experiment is what Josh was talking about, seeding, right? We are checking our consumers, who is ready for a masterclass, who actually needs a solid, expert-supported China business plan that is not going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it may cost you a few hundreds of dollars. And what you need to invest is 3 hours a day for a week to draft your plan, which will be reviewed by Alberto and our guests. Yeah. So what we're doing, we're actually seeding, and we would like to hear from you the interest. There is already a link for that masterclass that we wanted to run this month. However, only if there is enough interest, right, Alberto?
Yeah.
But also we're going to take it further and see how our market reacts on our ideas, and while we are developing our ideas as well. Perfect.
All right. I think we are now about 1.5 hours since we started, okay? And I think that it was a very exciting moment today. I mean, I can see whenever Josh was talking about the things that happens to him, I could see myself in the same situation, and the excitement on getting things and then seeing the path to a wrong direction. And so going back and taking it back into the right path and making it right. Yeah, because in China, you know, whenever people talk to me about being an expert on China, I say the only things I'm an expert are on the mistakes I made. Okay, and I recognize a path in my mistakes, and these mistakes are very important to be understood and studied, because this path can be seen ahead of time. And it is so important to see how we can prevent certain wrong direction and prevent a certain failure for the Chinese business. Okay, so this is what I teach. But to do this, we need to go through, you know, a demolishing process of the pre-concept that we all have about China, and then we need to rebuild, you know, this puzzle with the tiles in the right position, so that the pictures get a better image, and get the results that we aim to. And also, we can switch the tiles and make a different image. That's a plan B, and then the C, the D, and eventually we can just pack it up, wrap it up, and go back home without having big losses. And that's what I call the exit strategy. Okay, so there is Egypt who just wrote a comment. I saw it popping up. It says, I would like to give you my thoughts on this masterclass series. I suggest you to prepare a demo class for at least 5 days, probably continuous class, then people might see if it fits them. Thank you very much, Egypt. I'll work on that. Okay, and then there is Fosco that says, I have to leave, guys. Thanks a lot for your time and shared experience. See you next time. Thank you, Fosco. And yeah. Can we?
Great show, Alberto. It's time to close.
Thank you very much, Eva. And I will see what happens in the next few days on our channels, and let's see if there is going to be a China talk soon. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.